to the ninja what if one, the My Hero Academia one with the water trigger and all that crap, because I didn't like the dust collecting rock one. I missed the when something goes away, you miss it. So let's get back into it. So moving on to the provisional hero license exam, not the one where like all the teams are attacking you away for no goddamn reason. The other one, basically, the one where Deku, Bakugo, and all versus All Might. Now let's just get started. So the first one would be 3 people versus All Might, because well, it's All Might. You're gonna need 3 people to pass. It's Christian, Izuku Midoriya, and Katsuki Bakugo. Alright, let's get started. So, when it starts, they start running. Shh! They start running. They go, ah, and then All Might shows up. He's like, yo, the C's in the bit. And when I get this out, I like to start off with my kills. Basically, when they're ready, he says, Deku says, one for all, full Cowley, 20%. Bakugo starts exploding with his hands, very much. He starts exploding with his hands, so like pulling off explosions from his hands. He goes, and then Christian goes. He goes, ah, ah, and goes into his water vortex state, his mastered water vortex state. I'm just gonna call it Ashker Ninja state, because I need to. Ashker Ninja state. He goes into his first round of the Ashker Ninja state. It goes, ah! They rush at All Might, going, well, Bakugo and Christian do, because, well, Deku's a security cat. He goes, Dah! He said, Christian's gonna have all his abilities back, besides the Night Slash, he's gonna have cut. And Christian creates an energy blade thingy, and goes, ah! And cuts and slashes All Might, but it just breaks instantly. He punches All Might right in the chest, which actually does nothing. He goes, damn it! Bakugo says, how about a stun grenade? He says, not in front of me, Bakugo, damn it! It says, double Kagebushi! And they all get blown up, so does All Might. He says, you weakened the explosion! He says, you shouldn't have exploded right in front of me! And steps back and says, damn it! Then he jumps back and says, here we go. Rushes with full speed, kneeing All Might in the stomach, actually doing a decent amount of. Then Baku would say, Excunapole! Yeeting Deku. Deku would say, St. Louis Smash! Well, actually, Deku wouldn't know St. Louis Smash. He'd say, Detroit Smash! Punching him square in the stomach, doing a lot of power. Chris would say, Aerial Ace! Punching All Might in the air, then slamming him down with a heel drop. Then appearing right next to All Might saying, Water Shuriken! Instantly hitting All Might, doing so much to him, and he says, come on, guys! Then he'd say, Bakugo, you want to do that combo move with Deku? He says, the throat, the pin, the All Might. He says, yeah. They both grab Deku and spin him, going, go get him! He says, Delaware Smash! Blinding All Might while Christian and Bakugo appear. Bakugo says, stun grenade! Boom! Christian would say, Aerial Ace! Boom! He'd say, Bakugo, try your secret move. Bakugo says, Housing! Impact! Christian would say, Giant! He'd say, and then he'd say, Water Tornado! And spin with full force, hitting All Might with a punch. These two clash into All Might, dealing big damage. He says, Deku! Deku would rush off with full speed. That actually took down All Might. He goes, and says, and then starts Naruto running. Super fast, catching up to Deku instantly, while Bakugo's exploding behind. And when they finally are at the end, All Might appears and says, Detroit! Christian says, Ariel! He says, Sima! Ace! And they clash, going, yeah! He says, go you two! All Might would go for another Detroit smash, and Christian would say, Hacha! Kicking his foot so high up in the air that his leg goes above his head, blocking All Might's strike, going, Hacha! Punching All Might, then saying, punching him again, then saying, Water Shuriken! Yeet! Hitting All Might with the Water Shuriken, knocking him out finally. Then they finally reach the exit. This team would pass easily. Now moving on to the summer training camp arc, because I don't care about the rest. While they're there, first day, everything would go pretty normal until the villains attack. On the test occurs, the villains would arrive. Here you go. Christian is by himself, walking around. And he sees Dabi, and twice he says, who the hell are you? He goes, oh, a hero. He says, wanna go? He goes, I'll take you both down if you're villains. He says, so, what if we're villains? Christian says, ah. They go, Shigaraki was right, this guy's insane. Ah. Ah. Going into his Ash Greninja form, because I still haven't thought of a name yet, besides Ash Greninja. Here you go. Ah. And going, ah. Punching twice right in the face, then swiftly tripping Dabi, then punching him up in the air. Toga says, a flying Dabi? Dabi would blast down with fire, Christian would duck, dodging the heat. They'd have to fight. Aizawa says, what the, who is he fighting? He says, yeah.
Put these in the drawer. Can you put them in?
Which one?
Put them in any drawer that has it and drawer.
Alright, people, let's get back into it. He says, ah! All the villains jump to the middle, and they say, and Christian follows with Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, Mina, basically the entirety of Class 1A and Class B. They go, they're all confronting the villains. Aizawa and Vlad aren't there. They're like, where are all those kids? Christian says, Deku, go! He says, go where? He says, go to Koda! He says, oh no, Koda! And he runs off. Dabi would jump right at him and try to shoot fire. Christian would jump over and say, Water Shuriken! You're not getting anyone. He goes, Christian actually has a communicator with Deku. He says, Deku, how's everything going? He says, ah! He hears Deku getting beaten up. He says, Deku! And jumps up in the air going, guys, fight them! I have to go help them! He reaches over there and sees Deku getting pummeled. He says, ah! Blocking Muscular strike. But then Muscular pounds him to the ground, and after both of them getting beating, he says, ah! Aerial Ace! With a quick, swift punch to the gut. Then he says, Deku, finish him! I have to go help! When they're there, it's only Bakugo and Todoroki and Tokoyami, who is pretty much outrageous. Ow, frick. Who's on the ground. He says, guys, what's happening? He says, these guys are way stronger than he expected. He says, Christian says, I'll try and do this next. He goes, The ground starts to shake. He goes, when Christian goes into his battle bond form, the water torrent disappears and comes into a little orb in his back. With him about to go look like he's doing whatever Greninja did when he first got the form. He goes, everyone's like, what the? And they see the orb. Then he pushes for, then he moves, and then it turns into a giant water shuriken. He says, so, who's ready to die? Then he says, cut! And then he looks at his cut blades, and they're kunai. They're like Naruto kunai. He goes, cutting. Slicing up the league, then he says, water shuriken! And yeets the giant water shuriken, exploding on all the league, hitting them with full power. He says, beating them all easily. He says, ah! He says, giant! He jumps up in the air and says, ah! Picking up the water, grabbing the water shuriken and making it ginormous. He goes, everyone's like, what the? And he says, water shuriken! Ah! Yeeting down, throwing down the water shuriken. It's a giant, even Aizawa sees this. People from the normal city see this giant shuriken. He goes, ah! Destroyed, seeing half the league on the floor, half of them still standing, but barely. They go, what the hell kind of power is this? But then they also see Compress turn Tokoyami and Thing off, and Bakugo into little pebbles. He goes, ah! But then most of the heroes get blown back, and Deku arrives. It's Deku, Todoroki, and Christian. Deku says, whoa, what is that? Christian says, my new form, mastered, battle bond. He goes, whoa, that's so cool. He says, they've turned Bakugo and Tokoyami into pebble thingies. We have to get to that. Dive in, create a fire thing. Christian would say, not on my watch. Water shuriken. Cutting right through the fire, going, And that's all I really